Welcome to TAC Makes, a podcast produced by the Art Center in Corvallis, Oregon. The following episode is one of 6 conversations between artists and collaborators involved with the exhibition Wildfire Water. Wildfire Water was made possible through a partnership with Playa in Summer Lake, Oregon, and is on view in the main gallery May 15th through July 5th, 2025.
Hi, my name is Dana Reason, and I'm a composer, sound artist, and an assistant professor at Oregon State University, currently living in Corvallis, Oregon.
Hi, I'm Kelly Yarbrough. I'm an artist based in Manhattan, Kansas. I'm primarily a visual artist, but I also work in arts administration and do some more socially engaged project work. Hey, Dana, it's good to see you.
Hi, Kelly. Been a minute. Great to see you. And I'm so glad you're going to be out here soon.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it. So I live in Kansas in the Great Plains and have kind of generally lived on edges of the Great Plains my whole life. And previously to visiting Playa, I had never been to the state of Oregon at all. But when I saw this opportunity come up with a Wildfire Water residency, I knew I was going to try my darndest to get there for that program because those specific topics are of interest to me and have particular meanings in the communities in Kansas where I live. You know, I got to road trip out to Playa in 2023, and like moving across the Great Plains and then through the Great Basin was like such an incredible experience. And I think just that newness of that landscape was really inspiring to me. There was also, I noted a lot of similarities kind of between rural spaces and rural communities, but then also like really big differences with how land is owned and managed. And that was really interesting to me. Burn ball is the hot new sport that basically puts players in positions to kind of role play and make decisions about fire management in landscapes. It's kind of designed specifically around statistics in Southeast Oregon. The project came about because we were learning so much about how wildfire has impacted that region, burned like 90% of the watershed there in Lake County in the past several years. And so there's this trepidation around fire in the landscape. And we learned some really challenging numbers about how much it costs to control wildfire, but also some numbers around, what it takes to mitigate from fire before it happens. And so there was kind of this conversation around like, well, where are resources best used? I come from a place in Kansas that uses prescribed fire on a very regular basis to maintain healthy prairie ecosystems. Prescribed fire is being used in Oregon, but people have a much different relationship to fire. Thinking about sort of the bigness and scariness of wildfire in that region and this sort of onslaught of challenging information, it just felt like people needed to have some agency or a way to participate in that wasn't just totally didn't make us shut down so much. You're used to this landscape though, and like you've been coming to Playa for a while, right?
I've gone out to Playa, I think, a couple of times, but going in April, right, which we did last year, when all the migratory activities are happening with the birds and just the vivaciousness of sound, you go there and it's collecting there. There's so much fervor and activity in the songbirds, and they're just there. And what is so magical about going out to Playa twofold is you go there and you kind of separate yourself from sort of the busyness of time and space in your daily life, right? And you could say that about any residency, except when you go there, there's a certain stillness, even though there's activity, the stillness of being in a space like that, the expansiveness between the landscape, right? And just less people, less everything. And You're kind of one confronted, but you're also sort of dropped into that landscape. And so to go there and know that the noise floor, you get dropped in. I was recently listening to some of the recordings that I made out there, and my whole system, my whole nervous system just like calms right the heck down. Like all of a sudden my body gets, oh yeah, that's stillness. That's right. That's what happens there.
Dana, can you quickly define for me noise floor?
So noise floor. Okay, imagine you go to a busy street in a city and there's all the cars, right? And there's all the electrical systems and there's the community noise of people walking around. That's the noise floor. And our noise floor in these cities is up quite a bit now. We've acclimated to how much noise, background noise there is that we're constantly actually mitigating neurologically. Our physiology is mitigating those things all the time. So we're always sort of a little bit amped, because our body's like, we're not noticing that our ears are trying to say, oh, well, brains are saying, okay, now we'll ignore that. We'll ignore that sound, but we're mitigating that. You go out to a quieter place, less noise pollution, less cars, less people, right? Less, all the electrical systems that are just humming and buzzing, right? And then the noise floor is significantly lower.
So it's
we're
a
not
floor
trying.
because it's background?
Well, we don't have, the things that human-made sound machines, right? Our cars, our automobiles, our trucks, the beeps and the blips and the electrical cars beeping at you, that kind of thing. So there's just less of that. And that means that we're really experiencing more sound, actually. That's that vibrancy that we're hearing because we're not competing any longer, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I'm always trying to translate into visual terms since since I most of my background is a visual artist. So I'm like, okay, it's like the buildup, like how like gessoing a canvas, or it's the buildup of material, like the ground material or something before you introduce the figure. Maybe I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah. How about if you're gesso, you're thinking it's normally maybe a white gesso, but instead in the city, it's like sort of a gray gesso, and you have to scrape away
Oh,
the
now you're bringing
grayness
in
of
color to it.
the
That's
white
exciting too.
gesso. Kind of go, okay, I know there's like, a pure color here,
Yeah.
our primal color or whatever you guys like to call these things. Primary color, I guess. Not primal, but primary.
I like primal color too. That's well, since you bring color into it, maybe this might be appropriate here because I am curious to ask you about your work with field recordings because that's what I saw you doing as soon as you showed up at Playa was getting out the recorder and finding those sounds. But I know you're a classically trained musician too, and you do all these amazing orchestral compositions. So I was curious to know if the field recording is new work or you've been doing it for a long time. And I guess that again, that makes me think of like a color palette out there, like the wide world of sounds that are out in our world kind of to me feels like, the extensive color combinations that are out there to be played with. And I guess I'm just wondering how you approach field recordings and how you're incorporating that into your practice.
It's a long-term citizen sound work, meaning people have their recording devices with them and they can basically take sonic selfies. So they can walk around and do that now. And similarly, so it's like a citizen practice, right? So we know we have citizen science, but I'm feeling very strongly that now we have citizen soundworks and we can all participate in noticing changes in our environment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I love that you're starting to engage that concept of citizen science too, and people like wider participation and people participating on their own terms. And I do think there's some parallels to that in Burn Ball for sure. This was sort of a wildly new and different project to me. I didn't show up to Playa intending to design a new sport, but I really love that it engaged people in a different way than I was anticipating. I mean, when I brought the game back to Paisley and we played it with the students at the school, you know, that was a particular audience, and I was thrilled that the kids seemed to understand the concepts but also enjoy playing it. And hearing that they were playing it on their own after I left was like success. And I think, you know, I really tried to use specific real data and statistics in the gameplay of Burn Ball, which, you know, technically should probably be updated as as new data emerges. But, you know, the fact that it was designed for a specific location and community, I think has intrinsic value. But then its replicability over space and time, I think is really exciting. There was there's someone from the Forest Service who was out in April at the show who asked if she could use the burn ball game as an educational tool. And I said, yes, please take it. And then it sounds like there might be some interest from other folks, perhaps in Corvallis, and that to me is the most exciting thing. Like, it's a context for exploring real time data about this place.
You know, we were all in it. We were in this sort of immersive project together, and
Yeah.
we're all kind of creating, and we were in that bubble. When you step back, which I think getting to be part of this next iteration of this cohort at the art center is happening. It allows us maybe that distance. You know, we worked on this last year, and now we can come back and take note, you know, of like really what was created there.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, this is an opportunity to continue the conversation, which I'm really grateful for. And I so appreciate what you were asking about. Like, let's go back and listen to that burn ball training video and the soundscape in that. Like, great point. Yeah, it's so exciting to talk to artists with different practices and kind of see what they see and hear what they hear. And I also, you know, there's this question about how our work maybe relates to both community engagement but also performance. And
Mhm,
that stuck with me a little bit because I'm much more comfortable talking about community engagement than I am about performance. And
mhm.
yet I understand there's absolutely performative aspects to it, but I would like to know what you think about that, Dana, because I mean, yeah, I think you probably own the term performance artist, right? But but again, some of the projects that you've been doing with these sound prints,
Mhm.
um, I don't know, do you still think of them as being engaging performance somehow, or
Yeah, well, I think it's another kind of inflection point actually on that. So when you're saying performance, I'm immediately going, well, I want to translate that into thinking about practice, right?
Mhm.
Because performance might be scary for someone participating in sound prints. And with sound prints, the idea was when what we did out in Playa is we all would take moments, listen together, have maybe a 30-second sound recording, a 1-minute sound recording, take it back into the room, and people would translate that onto basically a paper that could roll into a music box. So the idea of us, one, collectively, say there were 10 of us, you know, in the case with the Paisley students coming over, we'd all hear, but we all heard different things. We all translated differently, right? It could be an impression. It could be, you know, you just hear certain rhythms coming in from birds talking to one another, and you're trying to like figure out, oh, what the heck are those rhythms, you know, just loosely, right? And so when we're making these together, we're also noticing what we heard, but the long-term effect of this project, which is, you know, a website where people would translate their sound prints or put up their audio recordings of maybe where they're going to be. One is at Playa, but now we're going to do this in Corvallis. So the idea would be to over time to notice what's been heard and what's not there. So what is there and what is no longer there is really sort of the long-term understanding of what it might mean for us to be citizens working with sound and utilizing our technologies so that we can go, wow, we heard those swans, 10 years ago, but they no longer come here. They're gone, or we don't have the resources to support those swans, and they no longer migrate over to here, right? And so this is sort of my aspirational hope for a project like this. So on the one hand, yes, when you're going to do your translation and you're going to play them through a music box, there is a performativity, right? Because you're going to go, well, how fast am I going to go through this? Am I remembering how I heard the sounds from the recording, and I'm going to try to eke my way through that way? So it's very personalized. And I think that there's also a moment for more community engagement. For example, we had the opportunity. So what we'll hear at the Art Center is my recording of me sitting in front of the of just the pond there, and my translation of that. And I'll play that translation. And I have to say to you, when I listened back, it was just my whole nervous system was just transported back to that place. So we have the opportunity to revisit a place from the sounds. But yes, over time, the data collection could serve. I mean, like citizen science does, it serves as something. So, someone working on something might come in and go, well, how are they tracking this? Last April, there were, all these thrushes here, but now they're not here, so that
Yeah.
would allow for them to maybe go deeper into a formalized research project. Right.
Yeah,
So
this is kind of exciting. This is another maybe corollary between our projects, is that we both sort of created something that we're hoping could catch on and like kind of freely giving to other people to use and adapt. What's our role in this now? These projects that can have their own life. What's our role as stewards, or do we support a platform for others to find and use this work?
I want to think about that. It is an open question, and it's a call to action, actually.
Yeah.
And maybe out of our hands in that way. But, again, having the work come to the art center into a new community already, and for people to just take that in. And there's a lot of practicing scientists and artists and makers in our town that will probably absorb this and see, what they might want to do generatively for next steps as well.
I've absolutely thought about burn ball as should I say healing opportunity? That sounds so so intense, but definitely as an embodied activity that I think could be healthy, a healthy way to engage with some really big, tough feelings and concepts. I think it was Kathleen who gave a really nice example from mythology about um, he could see Medusa in the reflection of his sword and thereby was able to defeat her. And like I think she was trying to make the point of like using art or our creative problem solving to like look at really big, scary things through a different lens. And that, I gotta say, like directly inspired my approach to creating a gameplay around these topics. Because there is the average person has only so much control in the face of, extreme wildfires and climate change. But to be able to do something that engages your whole body and also your intellectual capacity to reason, I think can be really powerful. And part of the game too, like we got to talk afterwards about how it felt to make decisions in the moment of like, do I put resources towards this wildfire, or do I plan for the future and use my resources for mitigation? And like the kids who played got it. They could talk about those things pretty well. So yeah, I think it's not a new concept to them.
Thanks
See you
so much
soon,
for,
Dana.
yeah, thanks for the
Good to
wonderful
talk to you.
conversation. Looking forward to Burn Ball in
Yeah.
Corvallis.
Thanks for listening to TAC Makes a Podcast. You can find more episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and at theartscenter.net. That's arts with an S. Be sure to follow us on all platforms so you never miss an episode. Keep creating, keep connecting, and we'll see you next time.